if we're starting to see value in cyber risk quantification for companies, and we're seeing some organizations start to move from heat maps to this, what do you think some of the impediments to measuring cyber risk in an organization are, or why are companies struggling with this today?
I think there are good and bad impediments. Some of the bad ones are that many organizations are unfamiliar with this, and given that everyone is so busy, people sometimes don't look at something they're not familiar with. But moving on from that, the more practical and impediments can be around methodology and around data. So there are elements of the methodology that security teams might not be familiar with. In particular, the financial modeling that goes into the impact numbers. That's something that's outside the standard skill set of a cyber team, and either new skills have to be brought in or external help has to be sought. The second element is data, and there I think some organizations are a little overly concerned with the amount of data that they need to generate accurate results. Of course, the more data you have, the better, but it is possible to produce numbers that are very useful in a practical sense for supporting decisions with a minimum of data.
Yeah, that's a great answer. We say that all the time. People always want to know how much data is being used, but they don't know how to context what the answer actually is. And that's always the fun thing as well, too.
Right. They ask, how much data do I need? Do I have enough data? I don't think I have enough data for this. This comes up a lot, but actually you don't need a huge amount of data available, at least not to start with. Though, of course, the more you have, the more refined your outputs will be.
Yep, I think that's one of the things we've seen as well too, where I think part of it, I think you said it really, really well. It's an education. There's a lot of education that goes on right now. We have to educate people on kind of what is good, what is bad, what should it be, and there's a lot of we're seeing a lot of education that we're doing in the risk quant space. Where do you see, what are some of the things you see on the horizon for risk quant, and where do you see that space going?
As I mentioned, I believe that security and risk reporting in security is going on a maturity journey, and of course if you go back a few years, this was seen as a very sort of specialist technical area. Now, particularly with the rise of ransomware, security, the CISO has the full attention of the C-suite, should have the full attention of the C-suite and the board. The profile of security is going up, and then of course this means that you have to be able to speak in the language of the CISO, of the CEO, the CFO, and the board. The CISO has to be armed with the right tools, the right outputs, the right metrics to have those conversations. So I see we've seen increasing interest in quantification, and we're seeing it being adopted by organizations now that have been thinking about it for several years. So we've over the past few years, we've seen a lot of interest, a lot of people talking about it, but some of those organizations are one by one starting to adopt it. And in addition to this, specifically this year, we're seeing a lot of interest being driven by the events in the cyber insurance market. Of course, we're all familiar with the challenges in that market, and thinking about it, insurance is a natural quantification of risk. Insurers themselves quantify risk. They put a price, and you have a limit, and there's a price on the cover you get. So if you can't get the insurance that you wanted to, or your insurance is either you have less cover or more expensive than last year, this is very much a financial question and something that is very much in the domain of risk quantification.
Well, Yousef, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. I think you've touched on a lot of great topics, everything from kind of general cyber risk quantification to regulatory issues. If you had to leave people with one or two or three things that you want them to remember, what are the top things you'd like them to be thinking about when it comes to risk quantification and how, and just generally, what are your thoughts on what people should be thinking about there?
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure. And a couple of points I'll leave you with are that I think risk quantification is critical for communicating upwards with the C-suite and board. I think it's become increasingly important given the challenges in the insurance market. And finally, when people do it, they find it's easier than they think.
Yeah, That's excellent. It's easier than they think, and they should just start doing it now because they're going to be doing it in the future, like it or not, right?
Yeah. Start small and go from there.
Start small and go. I love that. Well, Yousef, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry.